I know people feel like the feds shouldn't be able to have eyes to look at social media, but the last place you should be flashing a gang sign is a recorded video call with a jailed inmate.
This just goes deeper and deeper. We thought we'd heard the most of it when the other charges hit Young Thug, but there's still more. Anyone who's out here screaming "Free Young Thug" probably isn't going to be happy about how this is about to go down. Read more through the indictment, it becomes clear that Thug really did have a hand in pushing YSL further. In fact, the feds got him on some really incriminating text messages. There's now direct evidence that he was involved in a hit on YFN Lucci. This YFN Lucci versus YSL thing had been simmering for a long time ever since the death of Big Nut. It seems like this thing is finally coming to a head, but not at all the way Thug expected. After trading the lives of homies for years, Thug finally decided he was going to try to take Lucci out for good. Of course, this is on top of all the RICO charges and multiple felonies for possession with intent to distribute and other charges that Young Thug is already sitting on. Young Thug and Gunna were both brought in on an 88-page indictment, which detailed over 50 different charges YSL was involved in. Thug and Gunna have consistently maintained that YSL is not a gang, but the authorities claim otherwise. Thug says that it's just a music collective and a family, but this most recent part of the indictment throws all of that into question. In the 88-page indictment, they spend a lot of time painting Young Thug as a leader of YSL and doing their best to prove that YSL is indeed a gang. So the big two here are sections 25 and 102. In section 25, they say they intercepted a text between Young Thug and Kyle Ory, one of the alleged leaders of the gang Money Motor. In the text, Thug says sacrifices must be made. Soldiers must fall in order for the battle to be won. 5020, Street Life, Kilogram to God, 3 Shot Nasty New, and M1 who are allegedly the 5 leaders of SMM. Anybody not under one of these individuals in the state of GA must line up Pete Sap. There's no rolling from one to the other. Everything is as if you are one. Money nothing added and nothing taken away. 2 guns. In section 102 it mentioned that there was some sort of vehicle theft. It's not clear if the car was just stolen or if it was hijacked. Either way, Young Thug reached out to Marcavius Huey. He told him that the guy who got his car stolen needs to go get it back, saying if he doesn't get it back, he'll face some consequences. This was taken by the courts to be both Thug basically threatening someone, and also evidence of him directing someone else to carry out a crime. At this point between both of these sections of the indictment, it's pretty hard to try and deny that YSL is a gang. It's also pretty hard to pretend that Thug had nothing to do with any of it, much less that he wasn't the leader. For some reason, there were 2 major members of YSL that weren't brought in on the indictment, even though pretty much the rest of the group was named. Those people were brothers Lil Keed and Lil Gottit. Lil Keed tragically passed away just a couple of days after Thug got arrested, and we're still not aware of the cause of death. That being said, we do know that he was experiencing really intense stomach pain shortly before his death. A lot of people are saying that he was hitting too much lean, and to be fair, a lot of rappers go that way. The information that's come out about Lil Keed's passing really hasn't slowed the rumors, though. A lot of people think it's just too much of a coincidence. I mean, the whole rest of YSL gets locked up, but Keed and his brother are free. What happened? Theories are all over the place here. Some people are saying that Keed snitched on his homies and got whacked for it, while other less sane people are basically saying that Keed got sacrificed to the Illuminati for Thug freedom or something. The thing about that is, though, I can guarantee you that at the end of this trial, Thug ain't getting off easy. People have been going crazy over the streets of the internet. One fan said, I feel like Lucci snitched on Young Thug thinking they were finna let him out. Shut up. Another fan said with Young Thug being caught trying to put a hit on Lucci, this is Lucci's chance to get that bond. Don't worry, we're getting to that. The DA had a press conference, said that there's no way they aren't about to push for the maximum possible penalties on this case because she argues that 75 to 80% of the crime in Atlanta is caused by gangs like YFN and YSL. They've also been hard at work on the investigation for over 6 months now, and that's on top of the work they did looking into YFN before they brought Lucci in on RICO charges. Once again, the first time there was ever a potential threat to Lucci's life was back in 2019 when an unidentified dude loaded his red Mercedes up. Lucci wasn't in the car and he wasn't hurt. The driver of the car sustained an injury to the shoulder. It's also clear that this was intended for Lucci since whoever his ops were definitely knew he would ride around in that car. To make the whole thing a lot crazier, the car was actually registered to Lucci's mom. To be completely honest about this part of the story, Young Thug hasn't been directly tied to this incident, and it's not clear that there was even any YSL involvement. While it would make a ton of sense that Thug finally decided he was going to take his ops out, it's not like YFN doesn't have any other ops. They're Atlanta Bloods, and they definitely have more enemies than just dudes from Cleveland Avenue. Things were okay after that for a while up, until YFN Lucci got brought in on RICO charges. They alleged that YFN was a gang, and that he was one of the callers for the group. With RICO charges, they don't even really have to get you on a specific incident. They just have to figure out that you were involved with a group, and that you tell people what to do and where. After that, pretty much any crime they committed can be tied back to you. This all brings us to where we are recently. So first of all, back in February of this year, YFN Lucci was attacked in prison by someone with a homemade shank. Before all this happened, Lucci caught wind from some other inmates that he had a bounty on his head, and he was attacked, and guards eventually stepped in and tried to tase both of them, but it didn't seem to affect either of them at all. He sustained a head injury, but was able to receive medical treatment. YFN Lucci isn't getting hit with any charges, but the other guy is definitely looking at some extra time, and ever since then Lucci has consistently been looking over his shoulder to make sure no one is trying to get the jump on him. He has since reached out to the judge through his lawyer in an attempt to get out of jail before his trial, but it doesn't really seem like that's working out for him. And since he still hasn't gone to trial, there's no telling how long it'll be before Thug and the rest of YSL get theirs. Ever since the indictment came out, the story has just become a little bit clearer. In Section 127, Thug, Woney Lee, and Trontavia Stevens are all named, and apparently Thug texted both of them saying, YSL rule the world, kid 24M on a dude's head, you'll just start bringing me the money, man, your dude, stop playing with me. This is most definitely related to Section 132, where a whole bunch of other YSL members are named, this time including Thug, Martinez Arnold, Miles Farley, Quantavious Greer, Woney Lee, Trontavia Stevens, and Antonio Sumlin. In this message, Thug said, "You only beat them up or shot, and yet your dude's getting soft now." You're gotta be wondering, couldn't they just be trying to frame Thug, and how would they even get access to these texts? Well, first of all they had to do is run to Facebook or whoever they were using to message. It could be a self-service provider, whoever, and most of the time these companies hand this kind of thing right over to the government. One of the only major companies who won't is Apple, but even if they were just texting over their iPhones or something like that, there's still another way. Wiretapping to catch people on RICO charges goes back a very long time, even back to the Mafia days. It's not like they even have to record the phone lines of the jail, because everybody knows those calls are recorded. They literally tell you, so nobody's about to discuss business over the phone lines unless they want to end up in a whole mess of trouble. Sections 177, 178, and 179 go over all of it. In Section 177, it mentions that they were all talking about protecting a YSL associate over a cell phone. In Section 178, they bring up the fact that they were discussing a hit likely on YFN Lucci over that same cell phone. Now how do they manage to sneak a cell phone into jail? There are a few different ways to do it, but apparently this time they had a drone drop a cell phone off at one of the prison windows. This is yet again another charge, conspiracy to possess a telecommunications device by an inmate. They already had one at this point, but they were also trying to fly more cell phones so they could keep everything coordinated. Now, if they didn't just reach out to a service provider or social media company, there are a couple ways they could have tapped the phone. They could have intercepted it when it was flying in and installed tracking software or hardware, or they could have gotten to the people who were supposed to fly it in. If the latter is the case, then we got some snakes on our hands, and that's not going to turn out great. People have reacted a lot to the whole wiretapping thing. One fan said, "I could tell people from personal experience they know everything. They let people get away with certain things, but trust me, they always know the players always." Another fan said, "So the cops smuggle phones into prison for inmates to confess to their crimes, use that info to take down the whole gang, and then charge them with possessing the phones. That's the biggest finesse of all time." They are right, too. The cops are absolutely wild on this case. They thought of everything, and it's not like they were just messing around for 6 months. But what do you all think about all this, though? Does Thug have any chance whatsoever of getting out? Did anybody in this situation snitch? Or is it just good police work? Let us know what you think down below in the comments.